The smoky haze of a dimly lit bar on Zone 15's lower level clung to Darius Thorne like a second skin, a mixture of cheap synthel and dashed hopes. He swirled the amber liquid in his glass, a pale imitation of proper whiskey, the movement mirroring the unsettling memories he couldn't escape. Another, he grumbled, pushing the empty glass across the scarred metal countertop towards the four-armed Zarian bartender. The bartender, whose multiple eyes seemed to miss nothing, gave Darius a look that spoke volumes about his dwindling credit balance. "Come on, Thorne, your tab's longer than a dry season on Kepler's 186F. Darius reached into his worn jacket, his fingers brushing against the familiar warmth of the Thorne family heirloom, a small device that hummed faintly against his skin, a constant reminder of his potential, a potential stifled by his own self-doubt. "Here," he said, tossing a credit chip onto the counter. "And some information would be appreciated. I hear whispers of an auction tonight." The Zarian's upper eyes narrowed, while the lower ones focused intently on polishing a glass. "Risky business, those auctions. Not your usual tech consultant work." "Since when do you care about my business?" Darius countered. "Since you started asking about slave auctions," the bartender replied. "These aren't your run-of-the-mill black market deals. They're selling something unique tonight. Living weapons, they say." Darius's grip tightened on his glass. Living weapons. He'd spent years designing inanimate ones. Was there really that much of a difference? The bar's holographic newsfeed flickered above, bathing everything in an unsettling blue glow. A group of crag merchants shuffled past, their chitinous armor clicking against the metal floor. One of them paused, mandibles twitching, speaking in broken standard. "You, human. You want ticket? Special price. Very exclusive show tonight." Darius turned slowly, assessing the alien's posture. "Depends what's on display." "Something that will make your primitive human heart flutter," the crag hissed. "Emerald Enchantress, they call her. Energy manipulator. Very rare. Very valuable." The crag leaned in, its breath a metallic stench. "But warning, starting price, 100,000 credits. No broke technicians allowed." Darius's fingers found the Thorne heirloom again, the device pulsing faster, almost as if sensing his growing interest. "Who says I'm broke?" The smoky haze of a dimly lit dive in Zone 15's underbelly clung to Jericho Vale like a persistent odor, a blend of cheap synthetic spirits and soured ambitions. He idly swirled the amber fluid in his glass, a poor substitute for genuine whiskey, the motion mimicking the turbulent thoughts he couldn't suppress. "Another," he growled, shoving the empty glass towards the multi-limbed Zith bartender across the worn countertop. The bartender, whose numerous eyes seemed to absorb every detail, fixed Jericho with a gaze that clearly communicated the precarious state of his dwindling funds. "Seriously, Vale, your tab's rivaling the length of a lunar eclipse." Jericho dug into his threadbare coat, his fingers encountering the comforting familiarity of the Vale family legacy, a compact instrument that emitted a soft thrum against his skin, a persistent reminder of his untapped potential, a potential hindered by his own wavering confidence. "Here," he grumbled, tossing a credit chip onto the counter. "And perhaps a little intel in return wouldn't go amiss. There's talk of an auction happening tonight." The Zither's upper eyes narrowed, while the lower ones remained intently fixed on wiping down a glass. "Dangerous game, those auctions. Not exactly your typical tech specialist's domain." "Since when did you start caring about my line of work?" Jericho retorted. "Since you started inquiring about auctions of the involuntary servitude kind," the bartender replied, his tone clipped. "These aren't your everyday black market transactions. They're offering something exceptional tonight. Sentient armaments, so I've heard." Jericho's grip tightened around his glass. "Living weaponry." He devoted years to crafting inanimate ones. Was there truly that much of a disparity? The bar's holographic news display flickered above, bathing the room in an eerie azure light. A cluster of Krell traders shuffled past, their segmented exoskeletons clicking against the metallic floor. One of them paused, antennae twitching, uttering words in fragmented standard. "You. Human. Interested in a pass? Special rate. Extremely exclusive event this evening. Jericho slowly turned, assessing the alien's stance. Depends entirely on what's being showcased. Something that will cause your rudimentary human core to palpitate, the Krell rasped. Jade Siren, they're calling her. An energy conduit. Exceptionally uncommon. Exceptionally prized. The Krell leaned closer, its exhalations a metallic tang. But be forewarned, initial offering, 100,000 credits. No impoverished technicians permitted. Jericho's fingers sought the Veil heirloom once more, the device pulsating with increased frequency, almost as though sensing his burgeoning fascination. Whoever said I was impoverished? 20 minutes later, Jericho trailed the Krell through Zone 15's labyrinthine passageways, descending further into the station's unregulated domains. The pass he'd obtained, through methods that would have both impressed and appalled his former corporate superiors, felt heavy in his pocket. The auction venue proved to be a repurposed loading bay, transformed into a makeshift arena. Affluent individuals from every corner of the galaxy occupied the tiered seating, ranging from Plutonian dignitaries to members of the Silicon Collective, residing within opulent android shells. Honored guests, esteemed patrons, and entities of unspecified classification, a voice thundered through the sound system. This evening's exclusive offering will commence shortly. Please find your designated locations. Jericho secured a position near the rear, adjacent to an emergency access hatch he'd already mentally earmarked as a potential escape route. Old habits died hard. The artifact in his pocket vibrated with intensity now, reacting to the surrounding technology. He could already envision multiple methods of turning the situation into pandemonium. The ventilation network alone presented 3 distinct opportunities for strategic leverage. The illumination dimmed, and a force field cylinder materialized from the arena's center. Inside stood the most captivating being Jericho had ever laid eyes on. The emerald glow of SAA's skin intensified as she flexed her newly freed hands, the residual energy crackling like static. Jared watched her, a strange mix of relief and apprehension churning in his stomach. He'd broken the shackles, but he couldn't break the conditioning, the years of ingrained obedience that flickered in her silver eyes. You understand much about my kind, she asked, her voice still carrying a hint of the auctioneer's practiced cadence. I understand tech, he replied, gesturing to the cluttered workshop. The rest? He shrugged, turning back to his workbench. Let's just say I've seen enough exploitation to last several lifetimes. He began sorting through his tools, the Caldwell artifact casting a soft blue glow over the scattered components. Let's get those restraints off properly. She extended her wrists, then hesitated. They are synchronized to my neural pathways. Removing them incorrectly could damage your nervous system. Yeah, I figured, Jared said, his fingers moving with practiced ease across the intricate locks. Good thing I used to design these things, well, better versions, anyway. The shackles fell away with a soft click. Sa gasped, a wave of emerald energy washing over her as her full power surged back. The workshop hummed, the air thick with potential. Careful, Jared warned, it'll take time to readjust. Like learning to walk again. She flexed her fingers, mesmerized by the rippling energy. You understand the workings of my physiology? Jared shook his head. I understand tech. The rest? He trailed off, glancing at the scars on her wrists. Let's just say I've seen enough to know that no one deserves to be treated like that. Later that night, Jared was engrossed in his work, the Caldwell artifact humming in tune with his thoughts as he transformed salvaged components into something new, something useful. He heard a soft rustle behind him and turned to find Sa standing there, draped in one of his old work shirts. The sight of her sent a jolt through him, the emerald glow of her skin, the silver cascade of her hair. I have come to offer my gratitude, she said, taking a step closer, her hands moving towards the buttons of the shirt. Jared gently caught her wrist. Stop, he said, his voice quiet. You don't have to do that. A flicker of her former fear touched her silver eyes. That's not the issue, he clarified, releasing her wrist and stepping back. You're extraordinary, Sir, but I don't want your thanks expressed this way. She tilted her head, studying him intently. Then what is it you desire? She asked, her voice tinged with confusion. Men always desire something. I want you to want it, Jared explained, running a hand through his hair in frustration. Not because you think you owe me, not because you're accustomed to, just because you want to. Understanding dawned in her eyes, followed by something deeper, something hesitant. She pulled the shirt tighter around herself, but her posture relaxed. No one has ever? She began, then stopped, her voice hardening. My mother, she traded me when I was 15. One dose, she continued, her voice flat, that is what I was worth to her. One dose of crimson mist. She didn't even attempt to negotiate. The air crackled with more than just her energy. I dream of finding her signature, Sar whispered, her hands clenching, emerald sparks flashing. Of making her comprehend the magnitude of her actions. Will you assist me? Jared touched the artifact at his chest, the familiar warmth grounding him. Finding one person in the vastness of the galaxy. You're resourceful. You possess knowledge. This? She gestured to the pulsing artifact. What is its true nature? He hesitated, then decided she deserved the truth. Ever heard of the House of Caldwell? She shook her head. Not many have these days. But once, he trailed off, lifting the artifact, its blue light illuminating the space between them. Once, they were the most influential family in known space. Some say they found a method to bridge universes, to harness energy in ways deemed impossible. Their artifacts were said to adapt to their wielders, enhance inherent skills, like your engineering talents, she observed. Yeah, Jared confirmed, most were lost when the house fell. This one has been in my family for generations. He offered a wry smile. Probably why I've always been better at creating things than using them properly. But your mother is not the sole individual you wish to locate, is she? Jared asked softly, watching the energy play across her skin. Sar's silver eyes darkened. No, she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. There are others. The ones who broke me. Or tried to. The handlers, she spat, the word laced with venom. The trainers. 5 years in their conditioning facility, they referred to it as education, preparation for service. Her laugh was bitter. Would you care to know the true nature of that education? Jared's hand tightened around the artifact. Only if you want to tell me. I want to eliminate them, she declared, turning back to face him, her eyes blazing with raw power. All of them. Beginning with Director Voss. He enjoyed observing the training sessions. Claimed it was essential to understand the merchandise. The artifact pulsed warmly against Jared's palm. Voss. Magnus Voss. You're acquainted with him? I designed security systems for his facilities, Jared said, his voice flat, before I understood their true purpose. He has operations in 3 systems. Then you know how to gain access? It wasn't a question. Jared moved to his workbench, the artifact's glow intensifying as he began to access old schematics. Getting in isn't the issue. Getting out alive might be. Sar stepped closer, her gaze fixed on his hands as they danced across the holographic displays. You needn't accompany me. Simply inform me of the method. Not a chance, he said, meeting her eyes. Besides, I have some amends to make as well. Why would you jeopardize your life for my vengeance? Because it's not just vengeance, he explained, his fingers flying across the screen, the artifact enhancing his ability to recall every detail of the facility layouts. It's justice. And maybe, redemption. For both of us. Jared and Sar fell into a comfortable rhythm in the weeks that followed. Days were spent honing Sar's control over her energy manipulation, the emerald glow now less erratic, more focused, while Jared tinkered in his workshop, the Caldwell artifact humming a soft accompaniment as he transformed salvaged components into increasingly intricate devices. Nights were for planning their assault on Voss's facilities, punctuated by shared stories, hesitant confidences, and the slow blossoming of trust between them. Jared found himself drawn to Sar's quiet strength, the fierce intellect that shone in her silver eyes, the unwavering resolve in every gesture. Sar, in turn, seemed captivated by Jared's ingenuity, peppering him with questions about the technology he crafted. "How does it anticipate your intentions?" she inquired one evening, observing the artifact's blue light playing across a partially assembled device. "It doesn't, not precisely," Jared explained, searching for the right analogy. "It's more like it expands possibilities, reveals connections I wouldn't otherwise perceive. The Caldwells supposedly discovered ways to manipulate the very fabric of reality, to bend the rules. And now you wield their legacy to build weapons?" "Tools," Jared corrected gently. "Whether they become weapons depends entirely on how they're employed." Sar picked up a modified communicator he designed to intercept secure channels. "Like me, then. I am a weapon, in their eyes." "You are a person," Jared countered, setting down his tools. "Everything else is merely potential." Their gazes locked across the cluttered workbench, the air charged with an energy that transcended Sar's inherent abilities. "Voss's primary facility," Sar stated abruptly, breaking the spell, "the one on Nexus Prime. That's our starting point." Jared nodded, accessing the facility schematics on his holographic display. "Security will be formidable, but with your talents and my tech, we can make them regret what they've done." "All of them," Sar affirmed, her voice steely. "We will dismantle their entire operation." "Permanently," Jared agreed. Sar's smile held a predatory edge. "When do we begin?" "Tonight," Jared replied, the artifact pulsing in anticipation. "But first," he added, a mischievous glint in his eyes, "there's something I want to show you." He led her to a concealed compartment in the workshop's rear wall. The lock disengaged at the artifact's touch, revealing a cache of specialized equipment. "Is that?" Sar's eyes widened at the sight of a sleek, form-fitting combat suit. "Designed specifically for you," Jared explained, lifting the suit. Its surface shimmered with embedded technology. "The artifact helped me understand how your energy interacts with conventional tech. This will amplify your abilities while shielding you from the feedback." Sar ran her fingers across the material, sparks of emerald energy dancing where she touched. "It's remarkable. Both elegant and functional. Couldn't very well have you going into battle wearing my old shirts, now could I?" he teased, a smirk playing on his lips. "No matter how fetching they look on you." A faint emerald blush tinged Sar's cheeks, but her eye sparkled with amusement. "You've been planning this since the night you told me about Voss." He revealed the rest of his arsenal, modified weapons, energy shields, stealth generators, each enhanced by the artifact's power. "I don't believe in doing things halfway," he admitted with a grin. "So I've noticed." She picked up the suit, then paused. "Turn around." "What?" "Oh," Jared realized, turning his back to her as she quickly changed. "You can look now." He turned back to find Sar standing before him, clad in the combat suit. It fit her perfectly, accentuating her athletic physique while exuding an aura of lethal grace. Energy coursed through its embedded circuitry, making her resemble a warrior goddess from ancient myth. "Well," she asked, striking a playful pose. "Remind me never to incur your wrath." Their shared laughter faded as they finalized their preparations. The mission ahead was perilous, bordering on suicidal, but as Jared watched Sar expertly check her weapons, he knew there was no turning back. "The facility's defenses are cutting edge," he explained, pointing out the entry points he'd identified on the schematics. "But they have one critical vulnerability: they never anticipated an inside attack." "And how do we get inside?" Jared held up a small, artifact-enhanced device. "They're expecting a shipment of new acquisitions tonight. We're going to hijack their transport codes. And once we're in, we find Voss," Jared stated, his voice hardening. "Make him disclose the locations of the other facilities. And then? Then I dismantle his operation," Sar finished, her voice devoid of emotion, only steely resolve. After that, we trigger the facility's self-destruct sequence, Jared added. I've already uploaded the virus into their systems. One command, and the whole place goes up in flames. They worked in focused silence, checking their equipment, reviewing their strategy one last time. As they prepared to leave, Sa placed a hand on Jared's arm. Jared, she began, her silver eyes meeting his. If something goes wrong. Nothing will go wrong. But if it does? Her grip tightened. Thank you. For seeing me as more than just a weapon. Before he could reply, she kissed him, quick and fierce, a silent promise hanging in the air. Then, with renewed purpose, she turned and headed toward the ship. Jared touched his lips, still feeling the lingering spark of her energy. The artifact hummed against his chest, almost as if sharing in his anticipation. Right, he muttered, following her. Let's go start a war. The facility's alarms shrieked, a symphony of chaos echoing through the corridors as explosions ripped through the lower levels. Jared and Sa moved as one, a whirlwind of destruction cutting a path through the pandemonium. Jared's enhanced tech, honed by the Caldwell artifact, proved a devastating counterpoint to Sa's raw power, each blast of emerald energy followed by a precisely timed detonation. Security breach in Sector 7, a frantic voice crackled over the comm system. They're everywhere. Not everywhere, Jared muttered, consulting his modified scanner, just where we need to be. They rounded a corner, finding Voss's private elevator guarded by 2 heavily armed personnel. Before they could react, Sa unleashed a wave of emerald energy, dropping them instantly. Show off, Jared teased, swiftly bypassing the elevator's security systems. You love it. Sa flashed him a fierce grin, the emerald energy still dancing around her fingertips. I do. The elevator ascended rapidly. In the brief moments of quiet, Jared watched Sa. The combat suit he designed shimmered with contained power, but it was the burning intensity in her silver eyes that truly captivated him. Ready? He asked as the elevator slowed. I've been ready for 5 years. The elevator doors hissed open, revealing Voss's opulent penthouse office. Voss himself stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, a detached observer as his empire crumbled around him. I should have known it was you, Walker, Voss said without turning, his voice laced with cold amusement. Only you could breach my security with such flair. And with such an intriguing companion, no less. It's over, Voss, Sa declared, her voice vibrating with suppressed fury. Your operation ends tonight. Does it? Voss finally turned, a cruel smile twisting his lips. You think you're the first to dream of revenge? The first to try? No, Jared stepped forward, the Caldwell artifact radiating an intense blue light. But she'll be the last. The ensuing confrontation was brutal and swift. Voss possessed his own advanced technology, but he was unprepared for the combined force of Jared's ingenuity and Sa's unrestrained power. Within minutes, he lay defeated amongst the wreckage of his office, his arrogance shattered. The other facilities, Sa demanded, her voice raw with suppressed rage. Where are they? Voss laughed, a harsh, rasping sound. You think this changes anything? There will always be others. Always be people like me. Maybe, Jared said, activating the virus he'd uploaded into the facility's systems. Alarms blared, warning lights flashed, as the building began its inevitable descent into self-destruction. But there will also be people like us. They left Voss to his fate, escaping the collapsing facility in a maelstrom of explosions and firefights. They moved in perfect synchronization, a seamless blend of skill and instinct honed by weeks of training and shared purpose. Later, aboard their ship, they watched the facility burn, a fiery testament to their victory. Sa stood silently at the viewport, her expression unreadable. You okay? Jared asked softly. I thought I would feel different, she admitted, turning to face him. But all I feel is free. A genuine smile, the first Jared had seen since their escape from the auction house, lit her face. And then something else flickered in her silver eyes. She crossed the space between them and kissed him. This time, there was no urgency, no shadowed promise of the future, just the raw intensity of the present moment. Just them. When they finally broke apart, Jared rested his forehead against hers. "Stay with me," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "What happened to giving me choices?" she teased, her voice light but her eyes serious. "This asterisk is asterisk a choice. Asterisk your asterisk choice. No debt, no obligation, just," he took a deep breath. "Just us. Fighting the good fight. Together." "Together," she repeated, testing the word. "I like that." Months passed in a blur of clandestine operations and hard-won victories. They dismantled 2 more of Voss's facilities, liberating countless others from the grip of his cruel empire. Their reputation grew, becoming a whispered legend amongst the oppressed and a chilling warning to slavers across the galaxy. But more importantly, they built a life together, forging a bond stronger than either had ever imagined. One evening, after a particularly successful mission, Jared took Sar back to his workshop, the place where it all began. He'd spent weeks preparing, transforming the cavernous space with the help of the Caldwell artifact. When Sar entered, she gasped. The entire ceiling shimmered with a constellation of floating lights, as if a piece of the galaxy had been captured and brought inside. In the center of the room, on a simple workbench, sat a small box. "Jared," she whispered, her voice filled with wonder. He picked up the box, his hand surprisingly steady. "I'm not good with speeches," he admitted, "but I know one thing for sure, my life didn't really start until I met you. Or maybe until you rescued me. Either way," he smiled. "So I made you something." He opened the box, revealing a ring crafted from the same shimmering material as her combat suit. Embedded within it pulsed a tiny shard of the Caldwell artifact, radiating a soft blue-green light. "Is this?" Sar's eyes widened. "A proposal," he confirmed. "If you want it to be. Marry me, Sar. Not because you have to, not because you owe me anything, but because," he took her hand. "Because I love you. Because you are my family." Tears shimmered in Sar's silver eyes, brighter than any star. "Yes," she breathed, pulling him into a kiss that made the lights above them flare with joy. "Yes, you brilliant, foolish man. Yes." The ring fit perfectly. He designed it himself, after all. But what truly made it perfect was the way her energy intertwined with the artifact's power, creating something new and beautiful, just like them.